Welcome to the AI for Interior Designers podcast, where creativity meets cutting edge technology. In each episode, we dive deep into the world of artificial intelligence and explore how it's revolutionizing the interior design industry. From AI-powered design tools to the latest trends and innovations, we've got you covered. So plug in, relax, and let's embark on this exciting journey together. Welcome to AI for Interior Designers podcast. P.S. This intro was written by and voiced by AI to sound like your host, Jenna Gaidusek.
Hey designers, welcome back for episode 21 of the AI for Interior Designers podcast. I am your host, Jenna Gaidusek. And in this episode today, I promise I will have guests on. I just am not trying to schedule all these things over the summer right now, just because it's so crazy and back to school is about to be happening. So luckily I'll have some time back. But anyway, you get me again. Sorry. We have some other really interesting guests coming on very soon. But for right now, I just had a topic that I wanted to talk about, and this isn't going to be a long podcast today, but it's an interesting comparison that I made with this show that I watched to kind of where interior designers are right now with AI and, the risk or perceived risk that they could be taking our jobs in the future. And I have done episodes about this before, and I've touched on it, just so many different times. And then there's a full episode of, is AI going to take my job? If you want to check that one out too. But today I wanted to do kind of this interesting comparison. Hopefully you'll find it interesting. I have been a Futurama fan for years now. And so this is my nighttime. I mean, I haven't in a while, but throughout all my 20s, it was my nighttime, Adult Swim go-to show to fall asleep. So in Futurama, basically, there's this robot named Bender. His job is to bend things. So just a funny comparison, his specific job as a robot is one specific job, and that is only to bend things. Okay, that's what he was created for. These other robots in the show were created to do very specific tasks as well, which is very similar to how we can create custom GPTs in ChatGPT or other bots, and other programs too, to basically do one task and to do that one task very well. So interesting comparison, just throwing that out there. But Bender works for, he's part of their delivery team. So what their job is basically a space delivery team. And I want to say it's Planet Express is the name of the company. And so it's a few humans and then a few aliens, and they create this little team in this business that delivers in the galaxy all these different packages. So Bender's role is to, pick things up and bend things. And so he joined this team. He is not a chef, but in one of these episodes, I think it's season 1, episode 7, I'm going to confirm that, Bender wants to become a chef. And so he has infinite knowledge of recipes, techniques, everything you need to know about being a chef and cooking. He knows all of it because he's been trained, he has the knowledge. But he has no taste buds. So when it comes to actually creating and serving the food to the other people on his team that do have taste buds, it's awful. And he's like, but I followed all the instructions, and it's still terrible. So what he did was he was preparing a slug. And so he made the slug and he poured so much salt on the top. And so he serves it to the team and they're like, oh my God, I can't even eat this. And he was like, what are you talking about? It's 10% less lethal than, what should have killed you. What's the issue? So they were like, no, just because you can do 10% less lethal salt intake than you should does not mean that makes the food good or better. So his understanding of these different things were misinterpreted, even though he had all the knowledge, but it didn't apply to real life application and scenarios. And this situation is so similar to where we are in the interior design industry right now, where AI can help us do so many things. It can help us with generative imagery. It can help us to write things, create things, just written text, all of that, because it understands. We ask it a question. It's like a Google on steroids. Like it gives us the answers and then some with its, we'll say, infinite knowledge, which it's not, but one day, so it can do all of that. But when it comes to actually like knowing and applying in the real life space, that is where the disconnect between artificial intelligence and real life application is so vast. So think about how basically you can have AI help you to create conceptual boards. It can come up with color palettes. It can do all of that. It can, some of these programs now, which I haven't had time to explore yet, I've heard are doing like floor plans where you can draw out the floor plan, place your furniture inside, and then be like, okay, scramble this to be like different layouts. And honestly, that has kind of existed in some extent for a while now. Never good, in my opinion, from the ones that I've seen. Maybe there's some out there that are just like really great, but they're random. Like it just like throws the furniture in a different shuffle for you. It doesn't really like actually think about the layout and how humans would function and use the space. So for these things, you still 100% need a human. Now in the future, they are going to get better. They're going to be way more accurate, and it's definitely going to be a time-saving tool for interior designers to add to their toolkit. If it's something that you want to do, like if you could come up with 10 different floor plans for a really tight space in a matter of minutes, and then like use your actual brain and skill to figure out like what the best one is, what the best path is, like what materials, what actual furnishings are going to go in there, it could be a helpful tool to like streamline and get to the results that you want faster. We're not there yet. You still 100% need to be like really looking into these and seeing where it makes sense and where things don't, because things could look very good. Things look good in pictures right now. They look good in these like floor plan options. But if you look closer with a trained eye as a design professional, you'll see like crazy weird things that just don't make sense. So that's kind of like floor plans and stuff. But when it comes to generative AI imagery, there's people out there that are like, well, if a designer shares it on social media and people see it, then they're not going to read the caption and they're going to think that like this was the designer's kitchen that they designed. And hopefully that's not happening, right? Like we've talked about ethics, we've talked about those types of things where like, hopefully you're not claiming AI imagery for your own work, because man, is that going to shoot you in the foot when the designers start to see and then call you out on it because it's not right and it's not fair. So and they're trying to protect their integrity, as you should also be trying to do by sharing these AI images and then trying to claim them as your work. But here's the deal, we can tell, because right now especially, and even with all the updates to generative AI, kitchens, bathrooms, like they're a hot mess. It's not just the hardware and the obsession with faucets for these AI images. It is the functionality and lack of functionality, and layout. So if you really look into these kitchens, yeah, they could be beautiful and absolutely stunning designs, but they make no flippin' sense. Like it's not functional. It makes no sense with the kitchen and bath standards. It's just not real life. And so with that being said, like these images can be useful as conceptual ideas to then take and like really develop as a interior design professional, which is basically what we're doing with Pinterest images, Instagram images, when we're taking inspiration from our client and they're sending us a Pinterest board full of things. We can do that just by creating our own image sets and then sending our clients and being like, hey, which ones do you like? And then we can kind of use algorithms to be like, if you wanted to, or you can just use your own eye to assemble the style. But here's another, way that AI can utilize this information, where they can basically like look for algorithms and different features that maybe your client has said that they really like in certain styles, and they can AI can kind of like transform all of that into a cohesive style by like analyzing a set of images that your client has selected or that maybe you've presented and been like, okay, create a style with these images here. So it's really good at looking at data sets and analyzing and producing like, like algorithmic, yeah, I think I said that right, outputs that basically can like figure out, client styles and what clients could potentially pick based off of previous selections or onboarding questionnaires or, whatever that might be. It can help you to streamline and define data sets. But when it comes to actually implementing and creating these styles and fitting products and design into a client space, it's just not something that AI can do in the real world at this point. And honestly, for a while, like I don't see this happening for a very, very long time because designers will continue to evolve. They will continue to stay up to date with the latest and greatest technology, I hope, because that's going to give them the edge over people that think that they can just go to ChatGPT and be like, here's my floor plan, like what do I need to put in here? They're not going to get any like adequate results that they can take and implement. And if that's a fear for designers, then I highly suggest that you look into these tools and see what they're actually capable of, because we are nowhere near allowing AI to be able to craft a design and then make it come to life in the real world. We're just not close. We're just not there yet. Even with all these advances, like, yeah, we get massive advances and big updates to programs, but there's a massive gap between the technology and between the real world. And that gap is filled with interior design professionals that can bring the two together, that can bring the digital format of conceptual design to a realistic, real world application. Okay. So I told you today was going to be short and sweet. Go check out that episode if you wanted a little giggle, because it is so relatable in knowing that like we are humans and that AI and robots and all of this stuff that's happening, while they are brilliant and trained on everything in the world, it still does not translate to here in the three-dimensional human space with human functionality. Okay. I don't know. I just had to get that off my chest and also make a silly little connection between the two. My husband is a former chef. So, we always kind of talk about like all these different things. And, there's one part where like robots could potentially assemble like McDonald's cheeseburgers and things like that, because it's an assembly line type format where it's just like going down. But like when it comes to really good food and really good meals, you always need somebody to taste it to make sure that it's right and that it's good. And that's what we're paying for, right? Computers and technology is just nowhere near that. So anyway, I'm going to sign off for the day. I will see you for episode 22 next week of the AI for Interior Designers podcast. We are getting slammed with rain here this week in Charleston. So I'm going to go out and try and stay dry. We've got 2 more days of this. But anyway, have a great afternoon, guys. Or day. I don't even know what time you're watching this. It's afternoon for me as I'm recording. Have a great one.
Thanks for listening to today's episode of the AI for Interior Designers podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and tune in next week for more AI tips for your design business. See you next time.